everything that you say, that you do, and that you write, any action that you take creates an energetic ripple. And that ripple ripples off out into the universe and does what it needs to do. Have you ever thought about that? My name's Gail. I am the Energy-Led Woman, and this is my diary of an energy-led woman's life. I think my channel's called A Diary of an Energy-Led Woman. So an energy-led woman is living an energy-led life. I've got an itchy nose. What's that telling me? I don't know what that's telling me. Anyway, wow, that was a bit of a loud clap. I wasn't gonna record today. I wasn't feeling the vibe. I wasn't feeling the energy. I know why that is. That's a conversation for another day. I have numbed myself last night, and that numbing is still there and it hasn't faded yet. And I numb my energy with things like alcohol and takeaway food. That all impacts my energy the next day. So, yeah. There's something about Tuesdays and pizza for us, and I don't know where it's come from, why it's there, but it needs to stop because it really does not help me get through the week. Anyway, pizza and wine. Anyway, so I wasn't going to come on. I didn't feel like I had the energy. I didn't feel like I had anything particular to talk about after yesterday and talking about cord cutting and, all that stuff. However, I did a short yesterday. And on that short, somebody did comment, and it's given me some data, and it's given me something to explore, and it's given me something to self-project about, because I am confused about how we got to this place where we feel that it is okay to accept keyboard warriors and haters and all that kind of jazz. And my comment wasn't bad. Please don't get me wrong. My comment wasn't bad. I haven't taken it personally. I could not give a shit, to be quite frank, about this comment. But it's led me down an interesting pathway of what's happening here energetically. And I do see a lot of content creators, you will as well, a lot of content creators, particularly on TikTok now. It's become a bit of a game, hasn't it? It's become this kind of like, oh, I'll comment on someone's TikTok, I'll tell them that I think they're looking stupid or whatever it is. And then the person who's received the message on TikTok then does a video back to the person. So it's become a bit of a game. I've put far too much eye cream on. It's become a bit of a game. And I wonder about the energetic impacts behind this. And I wonder about the energy behind the whole interaction. So, for context, I will share with you the interaction. Why did I can't see, when I'm doing my makeup and skincare into this camera, I can't see how much I'm putting on. So, apologies. Right. Okay, so, the interaction went simply. My short was, and what began with, or the title of it was, Changing Your Life by Changing Your Frequency. And someone commented, change your hair colour first though, yeah? That's what they wrote. And I was like, So, first of all, for context, I've had this hair colour for about, 15 years now. I love this hair colour. It is a part of me. It is who I am. I imagine me at 80-year-old, still dyeing my hair this colour. I love it. It lights me up. It makes me feel like me. All the good things. So, I don't care whether you like my hair colour. I don't care whether you think it's cartoony. I don't care whether you think it's too bright. I don't care whether you're like, oh, well, it's not natural. Of course it's not natural. It's not meant to be natural. It's an expression of me. And if you don't like it, I don't care. Because I don't do it for you. I do it for me. It's as simple as that. And there is a phrase, and the phrase is really useful in this context. Your opinion is none of my business. I don't care about your opinion. I don't care about your opinion. And I'm not here for validation. And I'm not here for you to approve of me. And I'm not here for any of that stuff. So, that kind of comment doesn't bother me. What bothers me is the intention behind it. What bothers me is the frequency. What bothers me is that comment was quite mild for my page. I don't get very many comments on my stuff. I get a lot of DMs. I get a lot of messages. By the way, you can DM me via Instagram. But I get a lot of messages around my content. I don't get much where people actually comment because what I talk about is quite private. And, I come on here and I share, personal stories to help you find a direction, find ways of making life feel better for you. And that's all, but that's a byproduct of what I do because actually I come on here to self-project. That's it. So by recording these videos, by speaking out loud, I'm in my alignment. I don't need anything else. If something else comes from that, and amazing. If you send me a message, if you follow my channel, if you like my videos, if you stay here, if you resonate, amazing. I love that. I love that for both of us. But my alignment is about me speaking. And so my focus is I want to be in my alignment. I want to be in my highest frequency. This is part of that. And that's all that matters to me. I don't really care if you want to comment back. I don't really care of your opinion of how I look or of what I say, because what I say is my truth in this moment, and the way I look is how I express myself, and that is it, and how I feel good about myself. So anyway, let's get back to kind of like the point of it. So the comment was, change your hair colour first though, yeah? So I wrote back, so funny, haha, because I was like, what was the intention? What was the intention behind that comment? I was intrigued. What was the intention? So this person wrote back and put something like, yeah, sorry, couldn't resist. Yeah, you could. You could have resisted. You had an opinion, you had an energetic activation, and you couldn't control that. So the only way that you could get rid of that was by commenting on my page. So what was the energetic activation? What activated in that person when I'm just putting my moisturizer on again. I've just done that. Oh God, sorry. But what was the energetic activation? What emotion was triggered to like cause someone to actually write that? And that's where I find these things interesting. I listen to some of those TikToks where people are like, oh, well, someone's commented this and this is what I have to say to you. And I watch those videos because I'm intrigued. I want to know the intention behind it. What was the intention behind it? Was the intention that, what triggered that comment? What made you say that comment? What made you think that you couldn't resist actually typing that out? There's energy there. There's frequency, there's ripples, there's energy cords, there's triggers, there's activations, and that intrigues me. So I was like, yeah, you could have resisted. But if this is the energy that you want to put in the world, and I shrugged my shoulders, and that was my response. Because you attempted to send some energy towards me. You attempted to send an energy thread towards me of, I don't know, whatever intention was behind that. However, first of all, I have all of my social media warded, protected with spells, that energy can't reach me, or that a bad energy can't reach me. I have my name warded and protected. So, thirdly, right? I am a witch. You are sending me shitty comments. Think about what that means. Think about where that might lead you. I mean, obviously I joke because, for the good of all and to the harm of none is my vibe. So, you know, I'm not, obviously I joke, but I just think there's people talking about energy on social media that quite clearly, if you're talking about energy, you have stuff in your arsenal you know, that you could activate, you know? And I'm like, where's the sense in that? Where's the sense in that? Anyway, so I am just, you know, I'm just offloading. I'm just chatting through this because I'm trying to make sense of it for myself. And I've put what am I doing with my makeup today? This is not a good makeup day. Anyway, this is actually really good. Well, it's making my face look really orange right now. It does actually turn into your natural skin tone. I've probably picked up the wrong one with all the kind of sorting out that I've done recently. I need to, and also my tan's fading. So maybe it wasn't the wrong one last week, but maybe it's the wrong one this week. Anyway, so the intention behind it is what intrigues me and interests me and takes me on a different tangent. So let's just run through this so that I can make sense of this in my mind. So I am here, being a self-projected projector, aligning myself to what that means for me, so that I can be on a better frequency every day, so that I can be on a higher frequency every day. This brings me joy. It helps me work my way through life, all that kind of jazz, right? So that's my energy. And then, as I've said time and time again, if you can take anything from these videos, please do. If you are activated, then please, you know, take that activation on board and go and do something from there. If you are triggered, again, take that on board. What is triggering you? What's causing this? You know, what's causing this trigger? Do you believe me? Do you not believe me? Do you think I'm talking rubbish? You know, what is? Go and look into it. This is all that this video is data for you to decide whether you agree, whether this is something new that you want to learn about. You know, that's what. So I do this, and as a byproduct of this, you get activated. You find a kind of direction for where you might want to go. That's it. This is my diary. This is not, hey, you must do things how I do things. This is not, hey, I'm the expert, come and learn from me. It's not any of that. It's my diary. And I share quite personal stuff, as I said, and from that I get, you know, people reaching out to me and saying, you know that video, you know you talked about that. Can you tell me a bit more about it? Can you help me a bit more with it? And etc, etc. Anyway, I am now rambling. So that is my frequency, right? My frequency is, this is a diary. My frequency is, I am in alignment when I am actually recording this. My frequency is pretty high. Like right now, I'm vibing quite high, even though I'm talking about a difficult topic. So, you know, my frequency is kind of good. I'm good. I'm all right. You know, I'm in a sovereign energy. I know that by doing stuff like this and talking about stuff like this, not everybody's going to get me. Not everybody's going to agree with me, which is why I have protected my social media platforms, just to stop any, for the good of all and the harm of none, stop any energy coming at me that isn't in any way, shape or form beneficial. I suppose it's a bit like the evil eye. So I also protect and ward every single individual thing that I put out. And I also have protected and warded my name. So when you speak my name, it triggers off abundance. It triggers off abundance and love and joy and happiness. So, you know, I've done all those things. So I know that this comment doesn't really matter. However, it has given me some information and it's made me kind of like think about it and go a bit deeper. So this person has commented. They haven't added any value to the conversation. They haven't gone, oh, right, I tried this once and this happened, and oh my God, this happened. They've not added any value to the story, to the you know, what it was. They've just done a random comment on my hair, which is not relevant in any way, shape or form to the content of the video. So that's my energy's like, okay, interesting. What? Why did you feel the need to comment that? Why could you not resist that? That was interesting wording as well for me, which is why I had to respond today, because I was like, I could not resist telling you that I don't like your hair colour. I could not resist. I am someone who doesn't know you from Adam, who doesn't follow your content, who doesn't, anything. But I feel like I could not resist telling you that I thought you should change your hair colour. Interesting. Anyway, so we have to lean into the energetics of the person who has, what's the information? What's the data behind this? The data behind this is someone has come across one of my shorts. They don't know who I am. They don't know what I'm about. They are on a totally different frequency to me because that frequency is not a connection. What I'm talking about did not connect with this person. There was no connection there whatsoever. There can't have been if the only thing that they could comment was change your hair colour first. That is a totally different frequency. That is a total frequency mismatch. So I'm pretty sure that anything that I said in that video didn't resonate. It potentially triggered because we have this activation of energy that overflowed that resulted in a comment. So it potentially triggered. So did it trigger was it my presence on screen? Was it what I was saying? Something triggered that person into, and I don't like the word trigger because it's linked to trauma quite a lot. So whenever I do use the word trigger when I'm talking about being activating an emotion in someone else that isn't a great one, or when we're talking about activating energy that isn't necessarily supportive of the most expanded self, shall we say. I don't know how to word it, but that's all I'm talking about. I activated something when I came onto her feed. Something in that video activated something emotionally in her that meant that she felt that she had to, I think it's a she. I didn't have my glasses on this morning. I couldn't read the username. So it activated something that kind of overflowed. It couldn't be contained. She couldn't resist. It couldn't be contained. It overflowed. She didn't know which. There was an energy that brewed up, and it could not be contained. She couldn't resist writing it. Isn't that interesting? What energy was activated? And don't get me wrong. I know I'm Marmite. I know I am Marmite. I am meant to be Marmite. It is in my human design that people will like me or not. It's fine. I accept that. I know about that. I know that is a piece of me. You either totally resonate with what I'm saying, you either feel my vibrations as something that you wanna get closer to, or you don't. That's fine. That's fine. Anyway, so we've got my frequency. We're questioning the frequency of the person who was activated by something that happened on their YouTube screen. Okay, so now let's talk about the collective energy. Okay, as a collective energy, we have accepted the rule that if you are someone who puts yourself out there on social media, you also have to accept that people will comment on your content and on what you are sharing, and on your appearance, and on who you are, and on whatever they feel like they should. And that is acceptable. And as a collective, we've agreed on that contract, As I say, I see it on TikTok all the time, There's a woman, and I love her to pieces on TikTok, and she makes pom-poms. And I don't know if you've come across her, but she's into crafting. She makes pom-poms. She makes things out of the pom-poms, and she is the most beautiful woman. The energy that comes off her is just absolutely amazing. She's beautiful. And people go into her inbox and send her hate messages and tell her that, her hair's a mess or, whatever. And she uses that for her next content because she'll be like, right, so this lady has come into my inbox and told me that my hair looks like a rat's nest. So I started to have a look at what rat's nests look like. I don't know what rat's nests look like. And she makes it into this whole piece of content, right? Which kind of validates the person who's writing the comment, okay? But I love it. I love what she does. It's just, you know, she's just such a lovely, her energy on TikTok is just beautiful. But what I'm kind of asking here is, as a collective, we are seeing a breakdown of society as we know it right now. And, you know, here I go. I'm going on my 2027 change of move to the Sleeping Phoenix, all that kind of bandwagon again. You know, this is a really kind of like harsh time of life that we're all living through at the moment. Things are shifting, things are changing, things are moving, you know. Where we're going to see ourselves in 10 years' time is going to be far removed from where we are right now. And while we're going through this 2027 shift as far as human design is concerned, other shifts are happening all around the same time. It doesn't matter which modality you follow, human design, astrology, just universal energy, quantum physics, all that kind of stuff. It shows up across the board. Human design is the 2027 cross of the Sleeping Phoenix. Astrology is something like the age of Aquarius, but I'm not totally into astrology. That's around the 2030 mark. And then you've got the Earth is moving up through dimensions. We're moving from 3D through 4D and into 5D. And this means that the world is shifting and changing. And you know, there's even chains of thoughts where it's like you are on a fence right now and, you know, you get to choose your pathway. You're either going to 5D or you're staying on 3D. You know, there's all this stuff going on right now. And I'm not here to tell you which one's right, wrong, which one's the right, you know, the real thing. I don't care. I have my beliefs. I feel a bit of it all, to be fair. There's something happening, there's something brewing, there's something going on, and, you know, it is going to show up, but, you know, we're going to walk the pathway, we're going to let our sat-navs direct us to a better, happier life, but, you know, eventually we are going to end up, and we're going to look back and we're going to be like, Jesus Christ, do you remember when the world was like that? You know, because this life that we live right now is going to be alien to us. Anyway, so I look at this from a collective perspective, and I look at it and I'm like, so there are people of this world who are trying to lift the frequency of this world. We want to go to 5D. We want to improve life. We want to turn life from this kind of like this rat race that we're on into something better, into something more exciting, into something that feels good, and into something that's, you know, creates a different legacy for our children and all that kind of stuff. And then there are people who don't see it and are just caught up in the rat race, in the matrix, in the world. And, you know, maybe, you know, that balance, it's kind of, it's moving, it's shifting, you know, the maybe it's because of algorithms, but my content is more towards these people who are wanting to bring light, wanting to change things, than it is to the people who don't. But when did it get to a place where it was okay to be, you know, in this zone of, oh, I couldn't resist sharing my opinion, no matter whether it might affect you. I couldn't resist sharing an opinion and being funny, no matter what it might do, no matter what ripple it might create, not just on the person who I'm directing that to, but on the energy of the collective, on the energy of the world, you know, because every single piece of energy that we put out there impacts the energy of the world. We are the world. We are part of the world. We are impacting the energy of the world. The world has a Schumann resonance. It's on a specific vibration. It spins. It's moving up. There's all that going on. But on the top of the surface, like grease on freaking water, you know, it's our energy. Our energy. And we are either going to weigh down the earth and make it even harder for the earth to move up, or we're going to help lift it or whatever. But ultimately, I just feel like there's this, why is it okay? Why is it okay? Why are content creators taking this hate? You know, I have another one who I follow who is lovely. So I can't remember what the pom-pom lady's name is, but I follow Grace's Book Nook. Now, Grace is into bodybuilding, she's into fantasy books, she's into sourdough. I love her. I love her. I watch her, I keep up with her content. She's one of my faves on TikTok and Instagram. And yet even she says she rarely goes into the realms of her DMs because of the hate that she gets. When did it become okay for us as humans to not take responsibility for the ripple that we're putting out in the world? When did that become okay? When did that boundary get lost? You know? When did it become okay for us to constantly like do that. This is where I'm at this morning. And as I say, God forbid, that I get one reasonable comment that is, it's not a hater comment. It's just a quip. Someone's just gone, oh, change your hair first, hey? It's just a quip. But while it hasn't impacted me, I couldn't give a shit. I'm not going to go dye my hair just because someone said that. I don't care. I like my hair. I love my hair. I love red hair. I love it. Just look at my Instagram feed. It is me. It's been me for 10 years. I don't care. What I care about is the frequencies, the energy, because most people don't understand the impact of their energy, the impact of their intentions. I do. And I am very, very aware and conscious of the energy that I'm putting out there. And that's why I do energy casting, because I want to make sure my intention is in the right place before I do something. Some people call that spells. I call it energy casting, or setting an intention or something like that, but I don't necessarily call it a spell, but it is technically a spell. I'm putting a spell on the energy that I'm about to offload through words, through getting myself on. So so by saying a spell over something, I am putting myself in the frequency of that energy. I talked to you yesterday about how you can get yourself into a frequency, how you can change a frequency. What frequency does that person come onto YouTube with? What frequency does the hater come onto TikTok with? What frequency are they on? Because it's not a for the good of all and to the harm of none kind of vibe. What are they? I tell you what, it is. I mean, I'm going to scroll. I've had a shitter of a day. I'm going to scroll TikTok and see how many people I can comment on, because it'll make me feel better. It doesn't make you feel better. It doesn't make you feel better. Now, if you want to grow as a person and you've had a shitter of a day, go on TikTok and see which things trigger you and write them down and deal with them. Don't feel like you're activated and the only thing you can do with that energy is actually comment a quip. And what's behind that quip? Are you trying to be funny? What's the intention? Are you trying to piss me off? Are you trying to bring me down? What is the intention behind that comment? And don't say to me, it's just a comment. It doesn't matter. Because it does. Because every movement, if you imagine a spider's web, imagine a massive, huge spider's web over the earth. Okay? Every comment, every like, every action, every move, every conversation, everything that you do flicks one of those little strings of that web, and you don't know where that's going to reach. We've seen it. We've seen the straw that breaks the camel's back on people who are going through stuff, and people who cannot resist, who do not know how to direct their energy or how to transmute their energy. So they just have to share their opinion. You think about things like Caroline Flack, she was going through hell. And in the back of that hell, there was newspaper articles online with hundreds of people unable to resist their sharing their opinion. Just interests me. It just interests me. I'm not slagging anybody off. Maybe I am a little bit, but I'm not really. That is not my intention. My intention behind this is to explore the energetics behind it, to try and navigate that, to try and understand that, and maybe to help, maybe this will help another creator out there who is you know, feeling the impact of these comments all the time. You know? I'm going to start closing these curtains because literally we have traffic lights out on the front of this house. And this morning and yesterday, a couple of mornings, I have noticed everybody's looking at me. They must be attracted to the ring light. I feel like going, hi! Yes, I am recording some content for social media. Yes, I am recording myself. Anyway, guys, I'm going to leave it there. I think, you know, I've come to the end of that whole thing. But I am just really interested in the energetics. And like I say, that was you know, it was an anything and nothing comment, to be fair. I'm not hurt by it. I'm not impacted by it. There's not a great amount of energy that's, you know, the thing that I have done with that energy is I've transmuted it into this video. So what the energy thread that person sent my way, or the energy ripple that person sent my way, I have caught it and I've turned it into this video, which, you know, because that's everything that happens in my world is data. It gives me information. And I take that information and I use that information to help me kind of navigate my day, navigate the energy, all that kind of stuff. But, you know, it does make me wonder, if you go further into this, you know, the people that are really hurting in this world from other people's comments, or the people that are really hurting, and the only way that they can direct that energy, that overflow of energy, is actually in writing those kind of crappy comments, you know, and I'm when I say that, I'm thinking about the bigger kind of like hate comments. I'm not thinking about the comment that I've had. You know, I'm thinking about those really vicious kind of ones that people get. And, you know, I'm hoping that by focusing my energy on this, that I've not expanded something in my own world. So I'm hoping that this, you know, this is going to flow through, and I'm not expanding this in my own world. I could do without, you know, having to, well, I wouldn't deal with them, because you know, when other people comment, it tells me so much more. And I know that's kind of like, it's kind of like cheesy. It tells me more about you than it does about me, but it's so true, because I'm in a frequency. I've got boundaries. I've got protections. I'm in a frequency here of, my only kind of focus is on getting into alignment, on improving my frequency, and in doing so, helping others to do so too. That's you know, that's the frequency that I'm on. That's the frequency that I'm on. You know, what is the frequency of the world? How do we navigate this? You know, how do we explore this? What's going on here? What's this looking like from an energetic perspective? That is my vibe. You know, that's what I'm about, and I have those kind of boundaries. But something was activated. I activated something in someone that they felt that they had to comment, and it tells me more about what I've activated. And I'm not going to go into that, but if you, well, it tells me more about them than it does me. Simples. Anyway, I'm gonna have to go. I've got no idea what time it is. I need to start work. I think I'm okay time-wise, but yeah. So I'll upload this to YouTube, listen to it back, and might delete later. We'll see.